We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at Roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
Today on the Blockchain Report, Bitcoin sitting around 111K, and it might be because Michael Saylor's strategy is knocking on the door of the S&P 500. Apparently, betting your company on Bitcoin now counts as growth strategy. Bitcoin's dominance slipped to 55%, sending altcoin traders into full flipping fan fiction mode. Plus, we're joined by Bitcoin advocate and product marketing powerhouse Annalise Falchuk and Christian Catalini, MIT professor and crypto researcher, to break it all down. All that and more right now on the Blockchain Report. Let's go. Good morning, my digital desperados, and happy Friday. Welcome back to another ride on the Blockchain Report. I'm Hank Hudson, coming to you live from San Francisco, California. Now, before we unpack today's parade of price charts, ETF inflows, and the timeless classic, how many times can Washington move the goalposts this week? Do yourself a favor and hit that like button harder than Ohtani hits a 3-0 pitch. And make sure you're following RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank at RoxomTV, because let's face it, your portfolio could use better company. Now, let's separate the hodlers from the hobbyists, the bulls from the bored apes, and see who's actually stacking victories in this morning's market rundown. Let's roll. All right, so this morning, Bitcoin was sailing high and things were looking good. We were at 113K like minutes ago, but we've seen a bit of a drawback. Currently just hovering above that 110K level. Bitcoin's market cap still over the $2 trillion mark. That's a big one to watch. No asset in history has ever gone down to zero after being at $2 trillion. So things are looking pretty good on those fronts. Low in the last 24 hours, you had 109.5, and then we saw close to around that 113 mark just a few minutes ago. Let's take a peek at how some of the other big players in the space are looking. Right now, we have Ethereum currently hovering around that $4,200, $4,300 mark. Again, just about 2 weeks ago, we saw it get as high around the high 4,800s, broke new all-time highs, but it's come back down to around that 42, 43 space. Right now, Solana's down about 2% on the day, currently hovering above 202 a pop. In TradFi, let's see if things are looking any better. Right now, the Dow Jones is down nearly a percentage point this morning. The S&P 5 following suit, sitting currently at around 6,400. The NASDAQ Composite just chilling around that 21,000 mid-mark. And last but not least, we have MicroStrategy. Well, they probably went down very recently as well, as we saw that Bitcoin price tumble a couple $1,000s, and MicroStrategy tends to follow however Bitcoin ends up going. So right now they're at 320. We got a lot on today's show. We're going to take a quick break first, and we're going to go into more market news and top stories in just a bit. So stay tuned. More Blockchain Report coming to you right after this.
Oh, it's beautiful, Hank. This is not financial advice.
All right, welcome back. Now it's time for Chart Talk with our resident chart shark, Luca Pagano. Luca, how are you on this Friday? Thanks for joining us.
Hey Hank, how's it going? A pleasure to be here as always. So good Friday and awesome to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure is all ours. Now, Luca, we've seen some interesting movements this morning. I woke up, the birds were chirping, the sun was shining, Bitcoin was back around 113K. I look at the charts minutes ago, now we're tumbling back down to 110. What's going on here? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I felt the same way, Hank. I think they rigged us, you know. They played an awful game today with us. I think honestly, the chart we planned on Monday here together, Hank, I think it's playing a very important role, to be honest, because I think it's as clear as crystal gets, you know, in terms of what we were expecting. Remember, just as a quick recap, you know, we have this strong level for those who didn't sync up with us on Monday. You know, we marked up this strong level on the mid $111,000, right? Where basically it marked our May all-time high. Then we had this beautiful pullback, second leg up. We pulled back exactly to that level. Awesome. We had the other all-time high, so extra validation on this beautiful level, you know. And then we pulled back again on that level, and now we're under it, you know. And we're having a strong time, honestly, keeping it up, you know. We talked on Monday, where we were basically, on Wednesday, where we were basically on this level, remember? And we talked very cleanly, you know, if we close above this, I think we have some stars at least to $116,000. We couldn't close there yet, you know, and today morning, to be honest, it was looking amazing above here. And yeah, now we're pulling up again. So for me, this is the level, you know, I mean, everything between $110,000 and this exact level, that like mid $111,000, for me, it's, you know, the no trade zone in that sense, and we're waiting for triggers, you know.
So we always talk on the show, and especially because it's Friday, about closing out the week on a good note, hopefully so we can see some continued momentum through the weekend when, crypto is the only thing trading. There's nothing for TradFi, so crypto kind of tends to be the barometer of how the markets are feeling. I believe we have some interesting information coming out of Washington today. I think it might be jobs reports or something. What is the number you are looking for Bitcoin to close at by the end of today to hopefully see some continuation of upside as we make our way to the weekend?
Yeah, exactly. That level, Hank, definitely is, for me, the mid $111,000. Actually, if we see the weekly charts, we love here to talk, Hank, about the weekly close. Last week, we had this pretty ugly, to be honest, red candle. This was last week. And this week, that's where we're struggling, actually, to recover from the structure. Because if we can manage to close the week above this level, for me, the structure the structure has not broken. If we close below, a little bit lower than we're at right now, even, for me, this may be a confirmation that we are heading to new lows in terms of the current structure. So I think we should be cautious in here, and wait for the triggers. Not get ahead of ourselves. Of course, this is not financial advice, and we're just talking about charts, here. But this is at least what I'm expecting in my plan.
And one interesting thing, Luca, that I noticed recently is, I want to talk about it, we've talked about it on the show quite a bit, is Bitcoin's dominance compared to the rest of the market. Last I checked, that number was getting a little suspiciously low. So what is that kind of telling you about what's going on right now? Is money or liquidity moving its way into those altcoins? Are people chasing those higher plays right now, the higher alpha plays? What are you seeing in regards to Bitcoin's dominance compared to the rest of the market currently?
Yeah. Honestly, I think in terms of Bitcoin dominance, I think we reached our target of 58%, and now we're at a zone where it might make sense for BTC to recover at least to 60% for me. I mean, if we can close the weekly below 58, well, maybe there's a bit more fireworks. My next level here, Hank, for alts domination would be 54%, right? This is the weekly chart, guys. So, this was at least our plan from the last weeks. I think we reached our target. For me, it would make sense for us to, recover a little bit on BTC. That may happen if alts pull back. That makes sense. So, or maybe they accelerate. We surely hope that second, alternative, but we gotta see. For me, Bitcoin has been weaker than the altcoins latest weeks, and I'm expecting a little bit of a rotation there, at least for the short term, like next 2 to 3 weeks. But we will see what the market gives us there.
Yeah, how are you feeling right now, Luca, about the overall health of the Bitcoin market? We're kind of a weird time, right? September is usually known as Red September. The last 2 years being the exception, but the previous 5 or 6 before that, September was always in the red. However, we're almost on our way to Q4. We got about a month left. Q4 usually very bullish for Bitcoin, especially during this part of the cycle. So right now, how are you feeling the market is looking for Bitcoin? And we would love to I don't know if you saw, we have a new game here on the show where we take all of our guests and get their price prediction for Bitcoin by the end of the year. So I want to know, just to recap, how are you feeling about the overall health of the market right now? And how is that affecting whatever your current price target is for Bitcoin by the end of 2025?
Yeah, well, I think that those are very good questions, and also like separate ones, because if I think of the next month, Hank, I honestly think more of a sideways action and a breathing, let's say, kind of thing where investors, rotate their money out and or in, but no directional clear action, at least for me. I think the market is giving us that. We had a very clean action the last couple of months, so it's more of a rotational month for me at least. So what that means is I don't expect much FOMO and that kind of stuff for the next couple of weeks. That being said, for me that's an even better scenario probably for acceleration on Q4. At least my plan there, Hank, is I'm eyeing, as you know, $135,000 as the next target. And if the market gives us more sideways action, more pullback action, well, I will be very focused on looking at the levels that, for me at least, make sense to accumulate, and I hope that we can analyze them together here. And of course, this is not financial advice, but I will just be spreading out my beats at least in terms of if the market gives this,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Luca, I got to say, we always appreciate having you, your time, expertise, and insights on the show. As always, I'm sure there's quite a few people out in our audience who are like, hey, this Luca guy seems to know his stuff. I want more of his chart analysis and expertise. So tell them, where can they find more of that on the interwebs?
Yeah, I will be posting an analysis on the closure of the week, Hank, at Look at Roxom and get that ball moving, So hope to see you guys there.
Rock and roll. Well, have a nice weekend, Luca. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week,
Bye.
buddy.
Thank you very much, Hank.
Cheers.
See you then.
Thank you. All right, we're taking a quick break, but when we're back, we're going to have our first of our two special guests joining us on the program today and more of today's top news. So stay put. More Blockchain Report coming to you right after this.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
welcome back to the Blockchain Report. We got a treat for you boys and girls this morning for our deep dive today. Our first guest is an absolute powerhouse whose career runs on equal parts hustle and vision. She's launched startups, onboarded thousands into Bitcoin, advised at the biggest conferences, and is even helping merge Bitcoin with the high-octane world of motorsports. From Venezuela to Miami to the global stage, she's proving that resilience and innovation can change the entire industry. Let's give a big Blockchain Report welcome to Annalise Falchuk, everybody. Annalise, welcome to the show. Our audience, and we are super excited to have you. How are you this Friday?
Thank you so much. That's a great introduction. I'm hyped.
All right, that's what we're looking for. Love
Good morning. Yes.
Great. So, Annalise, we're super pumped to have you on the show today. And you have had a very interesting and unique background. So, you grew up in Venezuela during hyperinflation when the Bolivar turned into monopoly money. How much did living through that chaos push you toward Bitcoin as a real solution and not just a theory?
Well, definitely growing up in Venezuela in hyperinflation was you either had two mindsets to build at that time. You either build resilience and become the person that has the most hope for the world to become better and do something good for the world wherever you go, or you stay and then, you just accept the situation. So I guess my family, myself, we choose, persevere, be in hope, and build a life that builds legacy. And that's why I'm working in Bitcoin.
Amazing. And you've done a lot. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurial programs from Miami to the Holt Prize. Like, did any of those aha moments make you realize that Bitcoin wasn't just another startup gimmick, but like something that could actually change people's lives? Or what was that process like for you?
Well, definitely I found Bitcoin when I was ready to jump into doing something that impacts for the world. I came from a background of studying on social entrepreneurship and studying big problems in the world that are happening, from the food supply chain to the economy and fashion industry. Those were my three main problems that I was passionate about. I tried solving a problem for the fashion industry by recycling polyester materials, garments, hosting swap party clothing for people to just swap parties. So we prevent them to go to landfills. That was my first model for I want to save the world. My second one was on the food industry. I was like, I want to help as many restaurants as possible to, recycle their food by selling them online. And so we increase their sales and they don't have to also garbage of these food. And we help that aspect of the food supply chain. And that was one of my businesses in Miami. And then I jumped into Bitcoin. I was like, okay, hold on. If I want to achieve financial freedom for myself and for my generation, this is the way. Like, Bitcoin is the right technology for me to be an entrepreneur, for work for this industry and build something meaningful and impactful that will last a long time. I understood we were very early at the moment, but I would say I validate the market when I launched a payment processor in Miami. And hey, people didn't know much about what Bitcoin was, but they were open to learn it. And that was, for me, as like, okay, this is the beginning and this is where we are. And that was 4 years ago. And look where we are today.
That's right. Yeah. And what was the beginning like for you? How did you actually get introduced into what Bitcoin was? Was it a friend of a friend? Did you see a TikTok video? Like, what was your introduction to the space like?
Well, to Bitcoin as an investment through my mom, because she would invest using Coinbase and she would literally sit down at dinner and say, oh, look, I invested in this the other day and it went up with my Bitcoin, it went up this. And she would be like, I'm doing investments. I'm like, and then I see my mom talking to my brother-in-law about the Bitcoin going up. And I'm like, okay, I need to be part of this conversation. And literally, just right in that moment, I was hosting events for my clients that I was helping in the restaurant industry in Miami. And that's where I got introduced to the Bitcoin industry, is when I met the CEO of iBets. And he came from El Salvador, and they were like, we're ready to launch a payment processor to the Miami market. Can you help us? And I was like, their perfect fit profile to launch this platform, because I have all these connections with restaurants in Miami. And they were like, you are perfect. And you already know Bitcoin because you're from Venezuela. And we discussed Bitcoin. I'm like, oh yeah, my mom invested. And they were like, listen, we will teach you, we will educate you. If you want to jump into the like more deepness of Bitcoin, we'll give you books. We will make sure that you secure your Bitcoin if you invest on it. Like, working on a company and in the space got me involved in, like, you know, just more than the Bitcoin investment. And I understood there's an industry, there's a space, there's opportunity for building like solutions too. And that's where I first got introduced to a full scope of everything Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that seems kind of like the perfect marriage at the perfect time. You got on the Bitcoin train right as it was starting to chug along there. And what was it about Bitcoin that to you was just so undeniable that you were like, you know what, I need to make sure I'm making this part of my future?
I think there's something about Bitcoin that I love, is the innovation aspect of it and the opportunity, meaning there's a lot to create and a lot to innovate. And it's not just being a marketing company, it's not just being a payment processor. There's more to it. And I think I love a space that allows people to come in with new ideas, innovation, and become their own entrepreneurs within a technology that is giving them back value at the end of the day. When you go to sleep, you know you're working for something that is giving you value. So I think that's something that really excites me the most, like, is the technology, the innovation, the aspect that you can be an entrepreneur, and that you can also integrate Bitcoin in different aspects of your life. And if you have a traditional business, you can integrate Bitcoin into it. And now you become part of the Bitcoin industry, but you still run in a traditional business. Like, there's many ways to get Bitcoin involved in your business, in your life. And that's definitely something that fascinates me. And overall, the community also, like, everyone I've met in the Bitcoin industry, somehow we share a lot of similar values, and we also share like long-term life dreams. You know, so sometimes let's talk about 10 years from now. Where do you see yourself? And I see myself in the farm doing triathlons and having my horse and cooking my own food and, you know, cultivate it. And then I realize some Bitcoiners have kind of the same vibes and my like values, that is what they want for their life. And so feels like we're all working for a long-term vision for our personal lives, but we're all collaborating to get there. So definitely that's also something that is being impacting my life and keeps me going.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially, it seems like Bitcoin certainly seems to resonate with people that are interested in entrepreneurship like yourself, right? There's the freedom aspect, the innovation aspect, and there's the hard work aspect that seems to kind of go across the board for people of that particular ilk. And like you said, the community aspect. It's like we're all these people building things, and while we're all in our own single like silos, we're all doing this together. We're all kind of fighting for the same cause. So that makes a lot of sense. And I want to talk a little bit about one of your entrepreneurial endeavors, and that's called Felipa.io. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Felipa, thank you. Yeah, since it's Friday.
That's correct.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. Felipa was born in 2024 when I ask myself, really, like, I've been asking myself why there's so many little women in the Bitcoin space, where I'm like, I don't, but why, right? And then, I'm observing, and I'm a marketing analyst. I love doing market research. And I just found that, the way that Bitcoin is being communicated to the world is very, it was back in the days more technical than something that resonates with emotions and philosophy. Then philosophical theories came to life, but still, like, all the branding, all the messaging, still very, like, I don't know, not super feminine. And so there's no way we're attracting women to the space. And the women that are attracted is because, it's like me, family, it's like the boyfriend, it's like the friends, like you get referred. But for you to get involved on your own, it's kind of like feels intimidated. So I was like,
Sure.
I want to become a platform that really understands women's psychology of money and help them go through from point zero to point 100 to in their financial freedom journey. And in order to get them to invest in Bitcoin, or to get them into empowering them to become financial, like little or achieve financial freedom, which I'm still in that journey. Like, I'm not in 100%. I'm still like in the 20. But I was like, there's a need for a tool that can help me understand what's my personality with money, what's my psychological traits, what makes me excited about money, what doesn't. And also, like, in order to invest in Bitcoin, you need to know how much available you have to invest in Bitcoin every day, every month. Like, I had to make my math. And today I invest in Bitcoin every day, but I had to make my math. In order to get there, I have to sit down and do my math. So not every woman would sit down and do their math. So basically, we help women get to that point where they feel confident and empowered to understand their money, build a relationship with their money, so then they can make better financial decisions. And one of those financial decisions is they can invest in Bitcoin. So that's what Felipa is today. It has become an AI agent. And we're still in MVP process, and we're still validating hypotheses, and we're learning from our community what is it that people really need. But the more we get out there, the more we do community events, and I talk to women, this is becoming a great platform for women to, find themselves in a journey of, okay, I can get started to build financial freedom here. And so that's what Felipa is about.
I love that. And that makes so much sense, because oftentimes financial things seem very inaccessible to people that maybe didn't grow up with it or wouldn't taught it. Especially, the United States, for instance, does not do a good job of teaching anybody anything about finances growing up. You really have to kind of go out on your own to learn it. And especially, like, if it's not something you see, the world isn't shown through a lens that you understand or you identify with. So that seems like a really worthwhile endeavor that allows people to understand the systems better by showing it through a lens that resonates with them. I had a friend who created something called The Skim years ago, which was a newsletter that kind of related to women, and it took off because women identified with the format they were using rather than what was out there. So I think that's an amazing idea. But my question is, everybody downloads finance apps at one point or another and then ends up ghosting them a week later. I'm certainly guilty of it before. How do you actually get people to stick with these new habits that you're trying to help them build, especially when, Bitcoin rewards patience and not instant gratification, which is something we've really become used to in today's world with our TikToks and our algorithms? Like, how do you plan on building that patience and that and getting people to actually stick and use that app over time?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, because it's definitely the biggest challenge that any financial technology app faces. So in our case, we are building nudges of like psychological things that helps people feel empowered and create like happiness. Like, let's say, right? One things that we do is we send reminders of their financial goals. And so we focus on positive reinforcement rather than telling you, oh, you spent this much money, so you have less money now. No, no, no. We focus on, hey, remember that your goal is to invest in Bitcoin at the end of the month, this much. You're closer to that goal if you keep saving, if you keep managing your money this way. We also, so it's more focused on positive reinforcement. And also we do provide money affirmations. And these are like reminders that what you nourish your mind about, it becomes your reality. So if you wake up and you tell the universe, I'm gonna be invested in Bitcoin by the end of the month and I'm closer to this goal, that's an affirmation. And believe it or not, that affects your psychological life, and then it becomes something that then you start acting on it. So we're basically helping people become aware of their thoughts and giving them like a solution for what they should be thinking, or what are those beliefs that they should be reminding themselves. So then by consequence, like their actions are gonna align with it at the end of the day. So that is something that we have identified that's helpful for our users. And then of course, that's where we're like sticking with it right now. The more we learn, the more we're open to evolve and find solutions that stick to people as well. Something that is coming up soon is we're definitely helping people invest in Bitcoin. So having affiliates, we're having affiliates programs where we can recommend to any app of their preferences. So if they love Cash App, like I do, if they love Gemini, if they love like whichever they prefer, that's where we take them into that journey. So it's not, they don't feel alone doing this. They feel like they have an accountable partner that is helping them going through the process, and that changed the game.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I really love your approach to human psychology and how this relates to people's finances and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is such an interesting experiment in human psychology in and of itself, right? The way the market moves, sentiment. How did you come up with this idea? Because it sounds really unique to include this human psychology element into the Felipa.io platform.
Well, it was a personal frustration I had with myself. Really, the story is I wanted to invest more in Bitcoin and I needed to know how much I needed more accurately. So I went through a process of financial tools, budgeting tools, financial advisor, and it took a long time to get organized and to get clarity on everything. And I was like, this is such a long process, and I'm doing it because I'm motivated for the outcome, right? But however, this could be something that I would bounce quickly if I was not as motivated as I am. But I'm like, I wonder who else around me has done this before, as going through the same frustration I'm going through. And talking to all my girlfriends in Miami, that's where I found there was an opportunity to build something like this, because all my girlfriends were, oh yeah, the last time I tracked my finances was probably a year ago, and I haven't done it because it's frustrating. The systems are not working for me. They're all like focusing on the negative side of things, how much I spend. They're not positive reinforcement. They don't teach me really what to do after. Like, yeah, I spend this much, but what happened after? And many things, I just listen, I just listen. I'm like, okay, there is an issue and current existing solutions. If I build a solution, yeah, it will probably take long, but I think I'm capable, and I have a huge audience around me that I can serve. And at the end of the day, integrating this audience into Bitcoin will be like powerful movement. So why not getting it started? So that's why I loved being the person who is like integrating the women into the Bitcoin as a movement that comes from, hey, we help you with your psychology of money. So you build a better relationship with money, you gain confidence, you feel empowered. And then you can learn things like Bitcoin. You can do things like Bitcoin because now you're more integrated into those kind of conversations too. So it's more about, I just sit down with a room of girls and nobody talks much about money as when I sit down in a room of guys. And I've been in both. And that's where I found the opportunity.
That's amazing. And speaking of money, you raised, I believe it was $50,000 in seed money for Filippo, right? And my question in regards to that is, were you pitching, or how were you pitching Bitcoin during that raise? Was it the core of your mission, or is it kind of a silent engine in the background of this new, financial tool?
It was my vision. It was my vision as a feature on my platform. As of today, we operate as we provide the education aspect of it, and we provide the guidance to onboard people into platforms that it's not us. I don't see us being the platform who, people can go and buy Bitcoin. We see us the platform that we direct people to a marketplace of all Bitcoin platforms that they can go and select which one they want to be part of. Because the platforms that already exist are amazing. I don't want to reinvent, or I don't want to become another Cash App or another Gemini. I think I'd rather working with Cash App and Gemini to collaborate and bring them more users that at the end of the day, they are going to offer them the best service to invest in Bitcoin. So I can be focused on my side of things, where it's more helping them overcome that chasm of building a better relationship with their money, so then they can invest in Bitcoin.
Very cool. Well, it seems like it's going pretty well. I think I read that you've onboarded more than 3,000 people into Bitcoin. So I always like to know, as someone who has orange-pilled so many, do you have a favorite conversion story, a moment where you saw someone go from this is a scam to this is actually freedom?
Well, yes, many. Back in 2022, when I started onboarding restaurants in Miami into Bitcoin, many of them were hesitant. Many of them were but I'm accepting Bitcoin, but where is this Bitcoin going, right? Many questions, because they didn't know where these Bitcoin were gonna go. But we, of course, had a plan for them. We were saying, your Bitcoin is going to go to this account, and from this account, it gets deposited to your Bitcoin address. But they were all questioning, but what is a Bitcoin address? What do you mean with this? So it was very interesting to see how people were curious to learn, but they really don't know nothing. And I had to build this Bitcoin mini book to teach all my merchants about Bitcoin and accepting Bitcoin as a payment and what does this means. But yeah, my funny story is these people started seeing me as their Bitcoin advisor, and people would grab my number, and anything that they had questions about Bitcoin, I got started receiving people calling me, and this is oh, this is my iBets client, but then now they're calling me to ask me about their Bitcoin address, that they receive a message, a random anything that will be calling me. I'm whoa, this is funny. I was now I'm their Bitcoin advisor. So definitely I had many stories, and also people will be happy when they started accepting Bitcoin. The system will work good for them. They would see how easy it is to transact Bitcoin, and then they would look at their wallet, they'd have it, and they were now I get it. So I learned that giving people the real experience with Bitcoin is what really is going to help them understand Bitcoin. And then after this, I would say, it was funny when I had to set up my parents with their wallets and send my dad Bitcoin. And it was I became the Bitcoin girl in Miami everywhere. And a funny story is then I started going to farms with my job, and I started onboarding farmers and ranchers into Bitcoin. And I onboarded around 40 ranchers from Colorado, Georgia, Texas, San Diego, Nashville. And these were people that they were like, I'm ready to accept Bitcoin. They didn't know nothing, but they were very into it also. And again, the process of onboarding them into Bitcoin was very like nourishing, but also like very thoughtful. Like everyone has their questions, everyone wanted to know how the accountability works, the taxes works. Like, it's for their businesses, this was a more complex operation to install than just accepting them as a personal operation. So I just found fascinating that I was able to, integrate a new operation and technology to these businesses that actually was adding real value to their business, reducing transaction fees, therefore saving them more money or helping them make more money, and overall get them introduced to a new market audience. Because when we onboard the ranchers, then we launched campaigns to announce that these ranchers were accepting Bitcoin. And guess what? People started buying from them and paying them in Bitcoin. Wow. So we opened for them a new target audience too. So overall, my experiences has been very, how do you say, like very prosper. Like everyone has prospered in their ways. So yeah. And then, from there, I went into media. I stopped onboarding people into payments, and that's another story. So.
And we're going to get into that one in just a minute. But I do love the idea of paying for sweet corn with Bitcoin. So I appreciate your efforts. That makes my life a lot easier. And so you brought all of these skills in learning how to onboard people onto Bitcoin. What do you think was the hardest part? Is it convincing people that they should consider Bitcoin, or is the actual onboarding process with like how they go about doing it, setting up a wallet? Was that a bigger challenge for like a lot of these farmers? Or because it sounds like they were pretty open to the idea right at the jump, they just needed someone to kind of hold their hand along the way. Is that accurate?
Yes, it was a mix of both. It was a mix of what is Bitcoin, how it works, why is Bitcoin different from the fiat monetary system. So I always like to look at like the comparison of the system, like give people or business operators a perspective of this system versus this system, and this give them understanding of the model. And then now it's like, okay, and now accepting Bitcoin as a payment, what are my benefits? So it's like a traditional payment processor versus a Bitcoin payment processors. What are the differences? How each of them work, and educate them in that technology was key for their onboarding process. And then I teach them how it will work, the process of accepting Bitcoin, getting paid, securing your Bitcoin, and anything else and then how on the customer side of things, what do they need to get to pay you in Bitcoin? What are they doing to pay you in Bitcoin? So it was definitely a full onboarding process with education, coming up from monetary system to payment processing system, and then how it works.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have to meet people where they're at, right? Like you have to understand people's unique circumstances and then speak to them from that lens. And that's exactly what you've done also with Felipa.io. It seemed just to a different audience, right? And now you've been bringing that same expertise and insight and experience into the media and marketing realm. In fact, you recently joined the team at Roxom. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing over here with us, what you're hoping to achieve? right, and we're back with our deep dive with Annalise Falchuk. Sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of a problem here. Annalise, if you haven't seen the show before, we had this bird get into the studio a few weeks ago, and I think it had children inside the walls, and they're like biting all of our fiber optic cables. It's an absolute mess, but we're getting it figured out. Anyway, we were talking about you. You recently joined the Roxom team. You're bringing all of your insight, expertise, and experience to orange pilling the world through media and marketing endeavors. Tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing? What are you hoping to achieve here? We want to learn more.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm so pumped to be part of the RoxomTV team. It's an amazing company culture. You guys are doing an amazing job. Well, we're all doing. I love to create and I love to be part of the best media for Bitcoin. And on my role, I'm basically, overseeing everything that right now it's happening in Roxom in terms of content and also in terms of industry. And my goal is to help our social medias become top number one and in the Bitcoin industry. And, I'm here to win. So it comes from different ways and angles that we need to come out and say and get there. But one thing I would say is that we create amazing content and everyone knows about RoxomTV. So I know that getting there, it's gonna be just a matter of persistence. We already have the team, the dream team. We already have the content. We already have the connections, and everyone is having eyes on us. So I'm very excited to get us to be top one on these channels on Instagram and TikTok specifically. And of course, like integrating and innovating, right? We want to integrate new ideas. We want to create collaborations with people out there. We want them to look at RoxomTV as their platform that they can come and create with us too. So we're definitely looking forward to become the platform of collaboration. This is not just news. This is not just about Bitcoin only highlights and breaking news. This is also a platform for other people to share their stories like this one, to share and promote any event or conferences that we want to support too. And, definitely looking forward having more people joining us on socials as well. But yeah, that's where I'm here for. And so far, we are coming up with new ideas. We are definitely going through a moment where we are innovating and thinking what is going to make us succeed and become the top one. So let's go.
Let's go is right. Now, Annalise, you've been in this space now, you said, for about 4 or 5 years. You've seen a lot. You've orange pilled a lot of people. Now, Bitcoin's whole cycle thing, everyone seems to have a little bit of its own flavor as Bitcoin matures, and this Bitcoin journey has continued now for the last 15, 16 years. I remember back during the COVID times, it felt like Bitcoin was very well communicated through people just yelling at me through their TikTok and Instagram pages. Has that shifted at all? And what do you think is the best way right now to educate, inform, and eventually orange pill the next generation of Bitcoiners? How do you approach that as you're using the social media? What do you think is the secret sauce right now from your expertise and and experience?
Yeah, well, I would love to share all the secret sauces. However, I'm like, okay, let's keep some for just the RoxomTV team.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
Definitely. So English is my second language, right? And there's something I learned by becoming a native second language speaker, which is simplicity and less is more. And also back to first principles. So we are always educating people that probably need to hear again, what is Bitcoin? So back to first principles, rules to where what is Bitcoin? How does it work? Where is it? Like reminding people of the simple things, like When is going to be the last Bitcoin mined? Why is Bitcoin mined? What is a SATS? Why SATS and Bitcoin are different? What is the difference? Like, there's a lot of terms that we still need to go step back and remind ourselves that if we want the newbies to come in and learn, they need to learn from the first principles from the beginning. So definitely keeping in mind of a beginner is key to succeed in social media, because the people who knows Bitcoin is like less than the entire population, right? So we want to go and expand ourselves. So we got to go to first principles, and also less is more, simplicity. And as I say, make it friendly. Don't be too technical. Don't be too complex. Don't make it negative. Make it friendly. Make it engaging. Make it easy to understand. Like, so I guess that those are my secret sauces. And of course, give people, which is something we have been doing. Yeah, you know that Bitcoin has its different parts. It's moving in different ways. It's moving around legacy and governmental conversations. It's also in technology. It's also in developers. It's also entrepreneurship. It's also marketing. Like, Bitcoin is happening right now everywhere. So give people a full spectrum of, okay, Bitcoin is not just this technology. It's not just this investment. It's in a conversation in many rooms. It's going to help people understand that it's a holistic movement nowadays. And so that's definitely part of how we're approaching bringing people into other people's ears. And we always have to be innovating. I would say, you know, going back to first principles always tells me and reminds me that sometimes Bitcoiners have our own slogans and our own quotes and our own internal jokes. I'm like, well, those jokes we would have to innovate them too, because if we want other people to learn them, we gotta like open up ourselves. So I'm very much a person that likes to bring new people into Bitcoin. So that's where I sit. In that chair, like I'm always looking at what is it the new people needs to hear, and that will help them understand or grab them into learn more, rather than what else we can build on the Bitcoin industry to make it more exciting for those that are already excited. So yes.
And, you know, here's a question for you. As someone who has onboarded a lot of people into the orange pill theory, do you feel like it's more important to the Bitcoin space that we are kind of converting the older guard, the boomers, and getting them to understand Bitcoin? Or you've talked about empowering Gen Zs to get, you know, achieving their own financial freedom. Is it more important that we're focusing maybe on that generation? I mean, there's about to be this huge wealth transfer from the boomers to the millennials, to the Gen Xers, Zers, whatever. So is it important that we're starting this early and often for this younger generation? Because ultimately they're going to be the ones who have all the money to put into Bitcoin eventually, and, you know, hopefully their own, you know, financial futures. So who do you think is really the target audience now? Is it this younger emerging crop, or do we need to get our boomer parents on board too and, you know, get them aboard the orange train?
Definitely the young generation. We are the ones that are gonna be living and breathing the economic changes that are about to happen. We are the ones that are having jobs. We're the ones making money. We're the ones building companies. We're the ones that are gonna innovate. We're the ones using AI nowadays. Gen Z are our most important target audience, and we need to be more strategic and smart at approaching them in ways they like to be approached. And we gotta study their behaviors, and we gotta study what they do and what they like, and so how they would like to be thought about Bitcoin. And I do believe Gen Z is the generation that we actually need to give them the opportunity to work in this space. We need to reward them in a good way they're the ones that wants to work, are motivated to build financial freedom and to build a life. Like Gen Z, it's not easy for us to buy a home nowadays, like it was for our parents that were our age. So we're definitely more motivated to invest our money or to learn how we can achieve financial freedom than what our parents were in the past. And I do feel like it's not that we don't want to relate to the boomers, but boomers have already made their money. They already lived their life. And if they think about Bitcoin, it's probably more of a game theory for them. For us, this is like real. Like there's no, like we have to do it. Like otherwise, how can we overcome, right? Like the economic impact that can exist to us in any situations. So I think Gen Z are the most important audience.
Yeah, and what do you feel has been like the most effective way to communicate with that audience? You know, like the crypto space has a lot of interesting elements to it that you don't see in traditional finance. Like there's a humor to it, there's the memes. Do you find that Gen Z responds better to speaking to them like that? They like the funny memes, or is it better to communicate how important Bitcoin is if they ever want to, I don't know, own a home, for instance? Do you kind of have to instill fear in them, or is it about communicating with them on that level where they're actually paying attention, like through memes and whatnot?
I think we have to bring Bitcoin as like, hey, like this is gonna be part of your life as cash and money has been part of life of many people, and right? Like, it's like we gotta create more analogies to like what is Bitcoin and what was another technology 10 years ago that started like Bitcoin and became the today's of the day, right? Like I think using analogies of what is Bitcoin in other scenarios, it's helpful. I also think that we gotta do more like math and expose those math calculations to people. Like, hey, if you invest in Bitcoin, this $25 every day is $750 a month. Just think about it. You're putting $750 a month for your Bitcoin account, which you can consider that your savings account, in which it had a probability to go to earn a yield reward of this much, because in history, Bitcoin has grew to this. So imagine your Bitcoin today, in 10 years from now, it could be even more than a yield account, right? So I think relating with people with like, you know, let's do the math. Let's see what Bitcoin do for you if you start now. And Gen Z, you know, we are in the 19 to 25 years old, or to 26 years old. We're in the perfect age to get started on building that wealth for ourselves in 10 years from now. So I think, and then we get, because in 10 years from now, when you're 20, that's when you think about buying a house, when you get to 30s. So maybe Bitcoin gives you that opportunity. So I think it's also like now, you know, sharing the narrative that Bitcoin can help that vehicle for Gen Z to achieve their life goals, and creating those analogies and providing that calculation. It's helpful. It's helpful. I do it for myself. I do it for my friends, and I can see change completely the way they see Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, the analogies and the storytelling are all, I think, an incredibly important part of getting people to buy into what Bitcoin is all about. And you just need that initial buy-in so that they do their own homework and realize how good it will be for them in their future. But Gen Z is an interesting one, right? Because Gen Z has grown up with a lot of immediate gratification. Amazon, Netflix, they can watch what they watch when they want it. They can buy what they want when they want it. And Bitcoin is something that kind of requires patience and rewards patience. So how do you communicate that to a generation that's used to getting everything right when they want it? Like, right? Like, how do you say, hey, this thing will reward you, but it takes time, when they're so used to getting everything they want on their own time? How do you communicate that to them?
Yeah, and I would say that's our biggest challenge. I face it myself, so I relate to every other Gen Z listening out there. That yes, it's so easy to have $100 in your bank account or 1,000 and spend it right in one set in 20 minutes online. And also, we live in this world that is marketing for us all the time, and we're trying to build lifestyles for ourselves that we think it can happen from one day to the other. And yeah, it's definitely the biggest challenge is overcoming the instant gratification to long-term mindset and build resilience and patience. What have worked for me, and this is something I would share, is investing in Bitcoin tiny amounts every day consistently is automatically, it's something that would allow me to just think that, oh, instead of buying a coffee every day, I'm investing in Bitcoin every day. So I just have that going as like my spending every day is Bitcoin first. And then after is if I do any other purchase, but I already invested in Bitcoin at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's tiny amounts that they're not affecting me. They're not giving me any stress or, but at the end of the day, where I see at the end of the month is like, oh, I achieved this much investment in Bitcoin at the end of the month because I invested in tiny amounts every day. So focusing on compound growth is what I would recommend to Gen Z to start with. Don't try to invest bigger amounts because you're just starting to make money, or you're figuring out your life still. You probably don't know what you want to do for work, and it's okay. And you're probably spending your money on travels and experiences because that's the age to do so. And at least that's what people say. And I think it's fine to leave, to want to leave. I think everyone should experience and have that, but don't get yourself trapped into because you're doing that, then you cannot invest yet. I think tiny amounts can help you create compound growth. And I would recommend that. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a Bitcoin advisor, but this is just a personal sharing that this is what I do for myself. And I hope this also helps to others.
Yeah, I think dollar cost averaging what you can afford right now, and then as those things compound over time, you start seeing that number grow and grow, and then it kind of becomes a game, and then it's kind of you're orange pilling yourself a little bit as you get further and further down that rabbit hole. So no, that makes a lot of sense, Annalise. So our time is running a little short today, but before we let you go, here's a game we're going to play. We play with all of our guests, okay? This has been a very interesting year for Bitcoin, as we know. 2025 is coming to a close. We're almost in Q4. We're taking all of our guests and we are having them give us their price prediction for Bitcoin by the end of 2025, and the winner is getting a Patagonia jacket sent to them. So tell me, what do you think based on where we are right now? I think it's around 110. Give me your Price is Right figure. Where do you think Bitcoin's going to be at the end of this year?
I think Bitcoin is going to be at 210.
210. All right, put it on the board, gang. 210. All right, so if we got you on 210, we have a board. We're creating it. We'll send you that Patagonia if you get it right. But before we let you go, Annalise, one more time, I'm sure there's plenty of people in our audience that are like, I like the cut of this lady's jib. I want to learn more about her, Philippa.io. What's the best place we can send them so they can learn more about you, what you're up to with Philippa, and what you're doing at Roxom?
Well, definitely my Twitter, it's a great place to connect with me. Anything Bitcoin related, what my jobs in Bitcoin, my projects, my initiatives, work that I get to collaborate with other teams. I share there, I post there. My LinkedIn is also a great source of connection and tracking my progress with all my projects. I like posting there. So those two are my main. And then, check out RoxomTV on Instagram and TikTok and let me know what you like, what you don't like, because that's me behind the scenes. So definitely that's another socials that I would like you to check it out. And if you text RoxomTV, it's me replying in the back.
All right, no bots here. It's Annalise in the flesh texting you back. You heard it here first, gang. Well, Annalise, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you, learn about your background and all the amazing tools and skills you're bringing to the team. We're super pumped to have you, and we hope to have you back on the show sometime soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, have a nice weekend. Thanks. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, though, we have our second amazing guest of the day. You might know him. His name is Christian Catalini from Lightspark. We're going to be talking to him when we're back after this quick break. All right, welcome back. Christian's just going to hang tight for a few minutes because we got to go over the top stories quick because we got some good stuff to cover. First up, Bitcoin spent the past week doing its best impression of a drunk tightrope walker. Last Friday, it spiked to 111,500, then face planted back down to 107.5 within only a matter of hours. The following days, well, they weren't much kinder. Bitcoin kept digging local lows just above 107K like it was auditioning for the role of a shovel. Finally, by Tuesday of this week, the bulls remembered that they do in fact exist. Bitcoin clawed back from under 110K to 111, hung out there for a bit, and then bears shoved it back down to 109.5 just yesterday. But this morning, buyers grabbed the wheel again. Bitcoin pumped to a weekly high of over 113K before smashing right into a wall of resistance. Where are we at now? Over that around the 110K level. Eyes now are all on the mid-September Federal Open Market Committee meeting, where the Fed is widely expected to finally cut interest rates. Translation, brace for volatility because Jerome Powell sneezing can still make this market move. Meanwhile, analysts keep asking the same question. Will September stick to its tradition of being Bitcoin's worst month, or does 2025 break the curse? So far, Bitcoin is slightly green this week, with Strategy spending another $450 million on over 4,000 more Bitcoin, while Metaplanet grabbed 1,000 coins themselves to hit that magical 20,000 mark, because apparently Treasury Strategies are just a Bitcoin Costco run now. Some analysts are calling for divergence between Bitcoin and equities, suggesting that BTC could finally decouple and surprise everyone with a bullish run. Others, like Crypto Burb, are raining on the parade, saying the bull market has just 50 days left before it expires like old milk. And earlier this week, the SEC and CFTC actually played nice for once, issuing a joint statement giving the green light for registered exchanges to facilitate trading of certain spot commodity products. Or in other words, crypto just got a hall pass to the biggest venues in the world. So where are we right now? Well, Bitcoin's still hovering just above that 110K mark. The Fed meeting is just around the corner, and September is looming like the scary month it always is. But if there's one thing clear, Bitcoin refuses to stay boring even when it tries. And Michael Saylor's strategy is trying to, there he is, hey bud, is trying to sneak into America's most exclusive country club, the S&P 500. Analysts say there's a 91% chance that it happens. That's about as close to a sure thing as Saylor being spotted buying more Bitcoin whenever he finds a spare $450 million in his couch cushions. On paper, Strategy looks like it belongs. It's trading several million shares a day, it's rocking a $92 billion market cap, and it's pulled in $5.3 billion in profits over the past 4 quarters. Oh, and it happens to be sitting on just over 636,000 Bitcoin. That's not corporate treasury management, that's hoarding with a mission. It already made it into the NASDAQ 100, but the S&P 5 is where Wall Street anoints you as part of the furniture. But there's one small catch. The committee that decides who gets in doesn't actually have to care about numbers. They get to take a holistic view, which is finance speak for we'll make it up as we go. The official checklist says a $22.7 billion market cap minimum, 250,000 shares a month in trading volume, positive GAAP profits, and a liquidity ratio above 0.75. Strategy clears all those, but the committee still has to vote on it. Now, if Strategy does get in, it's huge, okay? I mean, passive index funds would be forced to gobble up $16 billion in stock. That's $16 billion in inflows that don't dilute shareholders one bit, all while pumping billions of indirect capital toward a company welded to Bitcoin's hip. It would be the TradFi equivalent of admitting Bitcoin won the culture war. And remember, Coinbase is already in the index. Jack Dorsey's block made the cut back in July. Both were big hints that crypto is no longer the weird kid at the back of the cafeteria. But the NASDAQ isn't making this easy. They launched a big scrutiny campaign against digital asset treasury firms. In plain English, that means we don't like you and we're going to find a reason to prove it. Strategy stock tanked short term but recovered because apparently Bitcoin maximalism is harder to kill than cockroaches. So will Saylor's grand experiment get the golden ticket into the S&P 500? Hard to say, but if it does, it'll be a milestone that forces trillions in TradFi capital to finally admit Bitcoin isn't a side hustle anymore, it's the main course. And the month of September, as we mentioned briefly, is historically Bitcoin's worst month. The charts say it goes, I know, come on September, get it together. The charts say it's minus 3.33% on average, and from 2017 to 2022, 6 Septembers in a row ended in the red. That's not a trend, some might call that tradition. But this September might actually break the curse. Why? Because the amount of Bitcoin sitting on exchanges has collapsed to a 6-year low. Or in other words, there's nothing left to sell. And if demand shows up, we could be looking at a classic bullish supply shock. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's still down 2% this past week, showing some weakness. Some analysts even call it a classic stock market top. Timothy Peterson says we're looking at a September range of 97 to 113K, which isn't bad if you like your crashes served at 6 figures. But other analysts say September is always where Bitcoin bottoms in post-halving years. Benjamin Cohen points out that after September, Bitcoin usually rips into a Q4 cycle peak. Crypto Nova chimed in too, saying this time it could actually very well play out again. So bearish short-term, bullish long-term. Classic Bitcoin. Rand, another analyst, posted charts showing exchange supply hitting multi-year lows and selling pressure drying up. Cade Bergman called it a bullish supply shock. Rand added that sentiment is flipping from negative to positive as we speak. The Fed could be the wild card here. With rate cuts expected in under 2 weeks, monetary policy might be the trigger that turns September into a fake out before October's usual fireworks. Analyst Marty Party also circled September 6th as the date to watch, that is tomorrow, claiming market makers love to cook on the 6th because nothing says reliable analysis like astrology for day traders. So is September going to be another red candle graveyard or the setup for Bitcoin's next leg higher? I don't know. Either way, the supply on exchanges is drying up fast, and when the world's scarcest asset gets even scarcer, bad Septembers start looking more like bargain sales. And Bitcoin's dominance of the total crypto market cap has slipped to 55%. That's down 7% from its cycle peak. And that drop has altcoin fans dusting off their flippening memes and convincing themselves that this is finally their time to shine. Because nothing says, we're back, baby, like investors ditching hard money for dog coins and VC unlocks. The 700 basis point slide is the classic setup. Bitcoin cools off a little and traders start rolling dice on higher risk, higher reward altcoins, which historically ends about as well as giving your cousin a line of credit at the blackjack table. September is also bringing token unlocks and hard fork drama for coins like Ondo, CFX, and IMX. Or in other words, insiders are about to dump on retail, but don't worry, they'll call it liquidity. Whether those coins pump or crater depends on whether the community actually buys or just tweets about it before rage-quitting Telegram. Meanwhile, Ethereum and Solana are flashing early signs of renewed interest. ETH has already been outperforming Bitcoin over the past month, and with BTC dominance slipping, traders are salivating at the thought of rotation into alternatives. Solana, of course, is back to being the high beta sidekick, basically Robin to Ethereum's Batman, but with fewer uptime guarantees. The big question, according to The Block, is whether altcoins will see actual spot market demand, or if it's just another round of derivatives-driven hopium. Because leverage longs don't pay the bills, they just fund the next liquidation cascade. Institutional capital is another wild card here. Treasuries and ETFs are still mostly Bitcoin's playground. If that money ever flows directly into altcoins, maybe we get a sustainable rally. Until then, altcoins are basically hoping to sneak scraps while Bitcoin eats the buffet. And here's the punchline. Despite dominance slipping, Bitcoin isn't dead. It's still bullish. Coin Codex says BTC is set to enter another rally by year's end, climbing to a new all-time high of 127K by December 2nd. That's a 14.8% pop from today's levels. So, yeah, altcoins may get their little moment in the sun, but history says it ends with them crying in the gutter while Bitcoin breaks another all-time high. We're taking a break, but when we're back, our exclusive interview with Christian Catalini from Lightspark. Stay tuned, all that and more on the Blockchain Report when we return. All right, well, now it's time for our deep dive. And the man joining us has been right in the middle of some of the biggest breakthroughs in crypto and fintech. He co-created a major digital currency project at Meta, founded the MIT Crypto Economics Lab, and has been a trusted advisor to Coinbase, Algorand, Chainlink, and even the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. He's presented research everywhere from the White House to the IMF, and now he's helping lead Lightspark, a company building real-time global payments infrastructure on top of Bitcoin that could completely change the way money moves across the planet. Let's give a big Blockchain Report welcome to Christian Catalini, everybody. Christian, welcome to the show. We are super pumped to have you today. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm great. Excited for our conversation today.
Me as well. And let's just start from the beginning here, Christian. You have had a really incredible career journey. You've been a professor, a researcher, an economist, and now a crypto founder, basically a Swiss Army knife with tenure. What was the spark that convinced you that Bitcoin was worth betting your career on? What was that like?
So many years ago, I was looking at platforms for democratizing access to payments and financial services, starting with crowdfunding and equity crowdfunding. I stumbled on Bitcoin. Once I started understanding some of the basic economics behind it, I fell deep into the rabbit hole and was really fascinated with the infrastructure that this could represent over the next decade. That led me to design the MIT Bitcoin experiment, where we gave all MIT undergrads back in 2014 what was at the time a third of a Bitcoin. It was only $100, but of course it's worth a lot more today. And so became one of the early academics really looking at the economics of cryptocurrencies, of Bitcoin, and everything that came after. That was kind of a quite the journey. At some point, I had to make a very difficult decision, which was like, okay, do I go and leave from MIT? Do I put my academic career behind and try to build something in this space? Which was when I became one of the founding members of what became the infamous project Libra and then Diem out of Facebook. 4 years of regulatory interactions across the globe trying to get that stablecoin ecosystem to really take off. And then when we threw in the towel with David, my co-founder, and others, we decided to try it all over again, this time on top of Bitcoin.
Amazing. And that brings us to your venture today, which of course is Lightspark. Now, the pitch is pretty simple. Money still moves like it's stuck in dial-up. What's the easiest way to explain the problem that you're fixing to someone who thinks Venmo already solved payments?
Payments have improved substantially in individual countries. And in fact, in many developed countries, we don't even feel the pain point of it anymore. We have many ways to pay. We have all sort of rewards programs. But behind the scene, the infrastructure for payments has been the same for decades. It's clunky. It doesn't allow new startups and new players to really compete. And therefore, from an incumbent's perspective, it's a pretty good market. Crypto can revolutionize all of that. It can make payments not only seamless, low cost, and globally available, but it can also allow new players to enter and compete so that consumers and businesses can really benefit from this new technology.
Yeah, and Christian, I was doing my due diligence on you before we had you on the show, and I saw that you talk about connecting people to the money grid. For the non-startup crowd in the audience, what is that in plain English, and why should we care about it?
It's a truly open network for money movement. Why does truly open matter? We're seeing every day, even just yesterday with the announcement of Tempo and some of these new corp chains, more and more projects come in where fintechs, neobanks, or others, including established stablecoin issuers, are really trying to control the entire payment stack. But we need something new. After all, crypto was designed to break through the walled gardens of large digital platforms and financial incumbents. We need a solution that anyone can connect to and send and receive freely in a network that they can truly own. That network is Bitcoin, and that network needs to be available to everyone so that they can really benefit from this financial renaissance.
Yeah, and but a lot of companies out there, crypto companies, will just invent their own chains, like they're just launching a new energy drink or something. You, however, chose to build on Bitcoin and Lightning. Why stick to the OG rails instead of, I don't know, making Christian coin or something?
Well, we tried that, right? So with Libra, we had state-of-the-art technology. We had one of the best blockchains at the time, a new programming language on top of it. But the reality is that the change in this space is not about the technology. It's not about better engineering. It's really about governance and decentralization. If you want to change market structure, if you want new players to be able to scale products and services in a way that is truly, truly novel, that network needs to be open and interoperable. Otherwise, we're recreating, the card networks just with different technology. That led us back to Bitcoin, the digital asset, of course, with the longest history, with a track record of decentralization, and also global liquidity. People often look at stablecoins as a way to send money across borders, but as it turns out, if you can come in and out of Bitcoin, Bitcoin is a great pipe. Bitcoin is a great technology for moving value 24/7 anywhere around the globe. Of course, people often still need fiat, and so you do need those on and off ramps. You do need those conversions. And part of the money grid vision, is really about connecting neobanks, wallets, fintechs, non-custodial wallets, all to the same technology stack so that everyone can move money as simple as sending an email.
And you brought me to my next question, which was great, because Lightspark supports everyone from banks to wallets to exchanges, which begs the question, like, how do you build infrastructure that scales across all of them without just becoming some kind of like financial duct tape? What is that process like?
I think it goes back to building foundational technology. So when we started, the only technology available for scaling Bitcoin was really Lightning. So we invested the first year and a half of Lightspark's life. My CTO, Kevin Hurley, spent countless nights trying to make Lightning actually enterprise grade. When we were beginning, you couldn't send $50 across Lightning reliably. Most of those payments would fail. So we developed AI/ML technology, for example, to ensure that those payments were always fast, reliable, and could be spliced on one side and recomposed on the other hand. That's all stuff that happens behind the scenes that turns Bitcoin into modern financial infrastructure. The strength of Bitcoin, of course, is decentralization, but Bitcoin layer one is so limited, right? In terms of TPS, in terms of what it can actually do relative to other networks. And so by scaling Lightning, we had a first solution that worked really well for custodial wallets. So if you're a large crypto exchange, today more than 15% of all Coinbase Bitcoin transactions are powered by Lightspark. Lightning is great. You can send, tiny amounts of Bitcoin in real time all over the globe. But the next wave, and this is why we embarked on the journey around Spark, is making Bitcoin really scale for billions of people. For that, you need to have a solution where you can have non-custodial wallets that can be created really rapidly for anyone, maybe with an SMS or with a message. And people can rapidly enter the Bitcoin ecosystem with as low friction as possible. That's kind of the next wave. That is all about reducing the cost of really scaling Bitcoins to a much larger user base and lots of new use cases. Think about Bitcoin rewards that can be seamlessly delivered to anyone around the globe.
That sounds nice. Bitcoin rewards are the best kind of rewards. And you mentioned the infrastructure because, which I'm glad, because you said that you want money to move like information does on the internet, which is kind of like that more frictionless path, right? Why do you believe Bitcoin infrastructure can actually pull that off when Comcast can't even keep my Zoom calls stable?
I think the beauty of open protocols, think about TCP/IP for package, transfer on the internet, or as a SMTP for email. They're foundational, right? So the role Bitcoin plays here is one of global liquidity, a global ledger, a way for people to transact value no matter where they are. As you build on top of it, you can also ensure openness. It shouldn't be the case that any single entity can control how that network develops. Otherwise, it's another closed network. Bitcoin is really the only network that meets that bar. And if you can connect different wallets, different institutions to the same set of protocols and rules, then suddenly, it doesn't matter which wallet I have or you have, we can transact seamlessly in different parts of the globe, any point of the day, at a cost that tends to be a fraction of what it is today on traditional payment and financial infrastructure.
Interesting. And you mentioned different parts of the globe. I believe I read that Lightspark is already live in something like 140 countries and something like 120 currencies. Is that accurate?
We have a number of partners that really help us pull that off, right? So we're building an ecosystem that is open where others play important roles. So, when you're trying to convert, for example, to LATAM, we work closely with Bitso. In each key region, we have partners that have already done the hard work of really connecting to the domestic payment rails, and they can also benefit from the network growing. So it's not just us. It's really, it takes a village to raise a child kind of situation.
I bet. I mean, I got to imagine, if you're working in all of these different parts of the world, they all have their unique challenges. What has been maybe one of the more strange or unexpected roadblocks you've faced as you and your team hit the global market?
I think in the early days, and especially now with a lot of hype around stablecoins, people wonder why Bitcoin, right? And they don't often realize that Bitcoin can be the most economical channel for sending value cross-border. Bitcoin has deep liquidity. And also there's a very strong complementarity between people trying to use Bitcoin for investment and speculation and trading and Bitcoin for payments. that demand for investment also drives the liquidity that you need in all these different regions to go to and from Bitcoin to local fiat. I think we're in this interesting phase of infrastructure inversion, where for a while, as much as some of the audience for sure would love a world where everybody's transacting in Bitcoin, everything is Bitcoin denominated. We're not there yet, right? So it's going to take time for Bitcoin to reach that level of adoption. In this intermediate phase, you do need to meet customers and businesses where they are. So the experience, for example, that we're powering with the likes of Nubank and soon SoFi when they go live, is going to be one where consumers will see dollars and pesos, reais, euros, all the currencies they're familiar with. But when you're trying to send money, essentially behind the scenes, you'll be jumping on the faster Bitcoin rails, and that value will translate and transport itself instantaneously anywhere across the globe. So I think we do need to create better user experiences that hide the complexity and just deliver real value to consumers and businesses. And when we do that, I think the rest is going to sort itself out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But when you're, for instance, like plugging in an exchange or a new exchange into Lightspark, what's kind of the core value add there? Is it speed? Is it the cost, the reliability, or is it simply we already did the hard part so you guys don't have to?
So for most exchanges, could they integrate Lightning themselves? Sure, and some have tried. But making Lightning really low cost, efficient, and reliable, that's really hard. So that's where we add value. And often, even when teams have evaluated Lightspark versus going their own path, they realize, okay, this is way cheaper than doing it in-house. So that's the first step, right? So delivering the best possible SDKs and APIs so that if you want to build on Bitcoin, this is the way to do it. And the second one with Spark is really bringing to the market and giving, to the community better software, technology that can help, builders that want to develop, really cool apps or games or things that really involve payments and Bitcoin or stablecoins. We'll be supporting, of course, stablecoins too on top of Bitcoin, which is kind of truly novel. Giving them the right tools. We're not going to build, all the applications that are needed for the Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem to grow, for the Bitcoin payments ecosystem to grow. That's going to be, people all around the globe watching this, looking at the API and SDKs and just building it, maybe vibe coding it over a weekend just to get started.
Yeah, and you mentioned stablecoins. As we've seen recently, stablecoins seem to be kind of turning into the new arms race. How does Lightspark and Spark fit in when you can just issue one in minutes?
So I think people, when they look at the stablecoin landscape, they're often not thinking through what will it look like in 5 years. I think in 5 years, we're going to go from, two dominant players, actually one mostly, with most of the market cap and liquidity, to probably over a dozen relevant stablecoins. Every other day, there's a neobank or exchange or fintech issuing their own coin. So all those coins will be competing. Liquidity will get a lot more fragmented. And to be honest, I think the end state is one where these stablecoins will fade into the background. We'll just think of them as, digital, fast, programmable dollars or euros or pounds. And in fact, domestic stables, I think, will make a big comeback. Today, most of the stablecoin supply is denominated in dollars, but we will need these domestic stablecoins for all sort of new use cases. As that happens, and as the stablecoin market gets more fragmented, people will need to cross between them, right? So a payment on neobank A stablecoin will need to land on neobank B. And definitely those two will not want to use the competitor's stablecoin. As you play that out, there's only one asset that has established track record, established global liquidity, established adoption by global financial institutions, and that asset is Bitcoin. So we do believe that Bitcoin will be that connector between all these different payment networks, between these different stable coins. And of course, once you have stable coins of Bitcoin, which we're going to have really, really soon, all sort of DeFi Bitcoin application come into play. DeFi often requires, a stable coin because you want something that is not as volatile as Bitcoin to denominate a contract and everything else. As that happens, I think, people have a hard time spending their Bitcoin. People want to hold. And so collateralized lending, maybe it's an interesting application where I don't have to sell my Bitcoin, but I can borrow against it. That we haven't seen that today. We've only seen it mostly with wrapped assets, but wrapped assets, of course, are not the same as pure Bitcoin.
Right. So I want to switch gears a little bit here, Christian. I want to talk about the developers. I'm sure you know this even better than I do, but developers are notoriously picky. So my question I want to ask is, which tools in your kit are you most excited about right now? What doors do they open that maybe weren't possible before?
I would say, look, this was our frustration in the first 2 years of Lightspark. Building on Bitcoin was really hard. Even when we tried to make the onboarding experience easier, Lightning channels, abstractions, liquidity on the fly, and all these things, it was still very cumbersome to be on Lightning. And so only the world's largest exchanges and neobanks and players could be on Lightning. But with Spark today, and Leo is leading our efforts on that project as being really thoughtful on this, we want a user experience that's as simple as what people are used to in kind of Web 2. So you can, build a Spark wallet probably in a day. You can use some of our partners like Privy that provide great wallet infrastructure. You can build it yourself. You have lots of options. But the barriers to building an app or creating something truly novel is so low. It's kind of day and night. So the part that we're most excited about Spark, I think it's not only bringing it to billions of users, but also ensuring that developers can come up with the next killer app with only a few lines of code. And, the audience will be the arbiter of that, but we're working really, really hard to make the experience for developers on Spark super easy and super enjoyable.
I love that. And I would love to get to, it's always nice hearing how the tech is supposed to work, but it's a different thing to learn about how it actually worked, maybe from a use case or from an example that you've experienced over your career. Do you have any stories or examples of clients who went from clunky, fee-ridden payments to instant settlement with Lightspark? And if so, what did their reaction look like in that moment?
Quite a few. I mean, starting with just Lightning, right? So when Coinbase rolled out Lightning, it was the fastest rollout of an L2 that they had seen. So reaching 15% of all of their transactions, shifting them over from L1 Bitcoin to Lightning happened in about a year. That was very rewarding for our engineering team that have worked really, really hard to deliver that solution. And just knowing that every day people move Bitcoin in tiny, tiny increments or larger ones, we can support any amount through that integration is of course something that we're proud of. Next, I would say seeing the first payment going cross-border between, say a Pix balance in Brazil to a Chase or BOA or whatever bank account in the United States in real time. And people seeing that money transfer and not even realizing, okay, we just went from the clunky old rails to Bitcoin, and now we're back to the clunky old rails in a way that feels native to a fintech experience. I think that was a really important moment, and we're excited to scale that with SoFi across the globe in a number of corridors. And last, with Spark, and again, for Spark, we're super early days, but the developer response and the ecosystem response has been amazing. If anything, our engineers are working hard to keep up as interest and kind of volume will build up for the network. It's clear that there's almost been pent-up demand for a truly scalable Bitcoin for a long time. And look, many have tried. I think there's a graveyard of projects that took very complex approaches, trying to get all in one step to feature parity with EVM. We don't think that's the way. We think we're Bitcoin, right? So we need to take things slowly and one step at a time. Even just doing payments on Bitcoin, super high frequency, super low cost, is a big deal. Non-custodial Bitcoin that can be truly available again, it's a big deal. When I was a professor at MIT and I was teaching crypto back in 2013, 14, I would move around some Bitcoin to show people how it works and send Bitcoins to students. You can't do that anymore, right? It's so expensive to do an L1 that experience has disappeared, right? Sure, you could do it custodially, but then you're not really experiencing Bitcoin to the core. And with Spark, I think people will be able to experience that again. They may receive a few sats as a reward or a tip, or someone sending them to just initiate them to Bitcoin. And I think we underestimate how transformational that will be for Bitcoin. We added back in 2013 because Bitcoin was cheap. It's much more expensive today, and I think it's going to be exciting for people to experience Bitcoin for the first time, even if it's a few thousand sats.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really love about having people like yourself on the program Christian, is you've been in this space for a long time, and you haven't just been in it, but you have like a very in-depth knowledge of it. So you've seen it at near its beginning and where we are now. It's come a long way in only those like 15 or so years. So I would love to get your opinion of, let's fast forward 5 years from now. If everything goes right and it goes the way you think it will, how does Lightspark change the way the world thinks about money moving money going forward?
I would say two dimensions. The first part is everyone is on an open network. Again, we mentioned corp chains. There's a number of them, right? Whether it's stablecoin issuers, PSPs, or others that are trying to bring people back within their ecosystem. I would love for people to be on a truly open network, and that network, of course, being Bitcoin. That means that if you look around, you'll see the world's largest neobanks, the world's largest wallets, the world's largest even traditional financial institutions, all connected to the same piping, all connected to this true open internet for money movement. And second, I would hope that, because we've enabled developers to really build new amazing things, there's going to be probably at least one killer app that nobody had imagined before. Could be related to Bitcoin rewards, could be related to something else, maybe AI. But as we lower the friction for people to be creative, especially in a time where everybody can vibe code their first version, their MVP, and then maybe scale it up and get funded and become more professional, I do think the landscape and the kind of things that people will invent, it's going to be very different. And so I'm really excited to see what does the future look like, and hopefully Lightspark will play a key role in enabling it.
Yeah, and when we look into the future, there's been, I'd say, kind of two camps, and then kind of a combination of the two. People are saying Bitcoin is the future of money. It'll be the next, peer-to-peer cash system, or it's more of akin to a store of value, like gold. Now, for the people out there who like to say that Bitcoin is too volatile to, in fact, be money, what's kind of your go-to clapback when someone throws that line at you? What do you tell them?
So the simple answer is that every medium of exchange started in some flavor as a store of value. If you think about even the history of paper notes, people were depositing stores of value, and then they were getting these paper notes out of it. So if you look at the trajectory of Bitcoin, I think it is clear today that even if you think of it as digital gold, first of all, it has some properties that are very different than gold, right? It's digital. It's very easy to transfer. So I do think that the comparison is not a perfect one, but it's a useful one for thinking about assets that just have different properties. If anything, Bitcoin has behaved more like a high beta tech stock in the recent times, and very different than gold. You often hear the inflation hedge analogy. That is actually not empirically correct. So I think we're still discovering exactly what Bitcoin is. It is clear that it is something truly novel. After all, when Satoshi released the white paper and then of course the code for Bitcoin, it was the first time in history that we could define something that was digitally scarce without giving a lot of power to a single entity. That global ledger that is really decentralized and updated, every so many minutes, it's something that society didn't know how to build before. So the governance and the institutional breakthrough of Bitcoin is a profound one. I think we're barely scratching the surface. A lot of attention has been placed on Bitcoin, the asset, but I want to remind people, Bitcoin is also a network. The two are connected, right? So as Bitcoin, the asset, becomes more valuable, more people adopt it. We went from the cypherpunks to the early adopters to the MIT undergrads in 2014. Most of which, by the way, held on to their Bitcoin. I guess they knew that was the wise choice. To now financial institutions with the ETFs and sovereigns with the strategic reserve. So it is very clear that this is going to be playing an important role in the financial sector. It's going to be an important asset that people will discover the properties of over the next 10 years. But that's part one. Part two is that as everybody's endowed with some Bitcoin, maybe, again, a tiny sats over Spark, suddenly the use of Bitcoin as a medium of exchange and the use of the network for transferring value becomes really important. Today, if you're a neobank trying to move value, sure, you could go through a stable coin, but it turns out that Bitcoin is often cheaper, more liquid, and more available. So it becomes this massive connector between all these domestic payment system and domestic rails. I think as that role becomes more important, of course, the value of the asset is likely to go up. the network becomes a lot more sustainable, even from a security perspective. But long term, it becomes critical infrastructure for building things in the financial sector. I think that was Satoshi's vision, right? When you think about peer-to-peer cash, that was a big part of it. We haven't seen it yet. Hopefully we can bring it to life over the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Boy, your answer to that question is so much better than mine. I need to get better at that. All right, so Christian, we're running out of time here. Before we let you go, though, we play a fun game with all of our guests on this show. And here's the game. By the end of 2025, everybody's eagerly waiting to see what Bitcoin's price will end up. There's crazy predictions. People are saying 130. Some people are saying 500,000 to $1 million. Our game is, I want you just to give me an exact number of what you think Bitcoin's price will be at the end of 2025. It's not financial advice. This is all fun and games. And we have our list of all the people who've been on the show that have done the same. And whoever wins at the end, we're sending a Roxom Patagonia to at the end of the year. So what do you think? And all of your insights and wisdom in the space, what are you expecting the Bitcoin price to be by the end of 2025?
So because of the tariffs and all the macro turmoil at the moment, I would say 157,021 cents. The 21 is mostly, tribute to Bitcoin.
157,021 cents. Awesome. We're putting you on the board. And then next time we have you on the show, we'll let you know if you win. I'm hoping I get to send you that Patagonia. But I do have to say, Christian, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to get someone with your insight and expertise in the space and learn more about where you think the world is heading with Bitcoin. It's really been amazing, and we really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Likewise, you had some really intriguing and thoughtful questions, so it was really fun.
Well, we appreciate it. We hope to see you again really soon. Christian, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we will hopefully see you soon, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, we'll be right back with more Blockchain Report right after this, so stay tuned. All right, boys and girls, it's that time of the show where we recap our top stories and wrap them all up and see how things are looking for Bitcoin. Let's do a little bullish, bearish, or BS. First story, as you might recall, Bitcoin made its way back up to a weekly high of over 113K this morning, only to fall back down to 110K in a matter of hours. Now, all eyes are on the mid-September Federal Open Market Committee meeting, where the Fed is widely expected to finally cut interest rates. Despite the pullback this morning, interest rates are expected to be cut. It's like 91% on Polymarket right now, so I'm feeling bullish because despite some caution for a potential September slump, Bitcoin shot back up to 113K this morning. So how could I not be bullish on that? I think things are moving in the right direction. So I'm bullish. Next up, we got Michael Saylor's strategy is being considered for the S&P 5 after racking up $5.3 billion in profits. The only hurdle left is whether the index committee feels comfortable letting a Bitcoin maximalist into the club. I'm feeling bullish about this. I think that strategy is going to get in, and if they do, passive index funds will be forced to buy $16 billion in stock, funneling indirect capital into Bitcoin's orbit, baby. So I am bullish. Great start. 2 bullish, 0 bearish, 0 BS, 1 to go. Last but not least, Bitcoin's market dominance has dropped 7% from its cycle peak, with altcoins like Ethereum and Solana getting fresh attention as traders rotate into higher risk plays. Don't love it. Calling bearish on this one, okay? Capital rotating away from Bitcoin into alts creates short-term sell pressure. History says these alt seasons usually end badly, but in the meantime, Bitcoin may stall before retesting new all-time highs. So to recap, today's final score is 2 bullish, 1 bearish, 0 BS, which means today is a bullish day and a great way to end our week here at the Blockchain Report, boys and girls. As always, thank you for tuning in for our episode today and each day here on RoxomTV. And make sure, if you haven't already, to like, follow, and subscribe to RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank at RoxomTV on your favorite doom-scrolling platform of choice. And I will see you all next week for more crypto chaos and Bitcoin bedlam. Until then, enjoy your weekend and hodl on!
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you, don't go!
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at Roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
All right, welcome to the tallest bar in the world. It's an incredible experience here at the Roxom booth on the cusp of Bitcoin Asia, the largest Bitcoin conference on the continent. And I'm here with Stefan Livera, who we just realized, you know, probably if we added up the hours between you and me, it's probably the most hours speaking about Bitcoin online on the internet. I'm not sure anyone can get near it.
I mean,
you know?
we're talking hundreds of hours of content out there.
I think much more. It's a lot. And weirdly, I don't think we've ever done.
Yeah, we've never done a podcast together. Like,
is...
I just assumed after all these years we would have done something together. Yeah.
Hey, this should happen more, please.
I've been a fan for a long time.
As a Bitcoiner, as part of the audience, I would love to see this more.
Well, we're gonna maybe you got to come on the show sometime.
Yeah,
man.
well, I came on one time with Hank, I think, one time. Yeah, but you know, got to do some more.
Yeah. So we were, I think we were last chatting at the Satoshi Roundtable in Dubai, and we were talking a lot about your life in Dubai and the Bitcoin ascension that's going on there, and we're seeing now the royal family come out and be very open about their holdings. I saw another mining announcement the other day.
Although I think that might have been Arkham Intelligence kind of doxing, but I don't know the detail. I think it was Citadel mining. I think the theory, or what I heard or what I read, was that they have about 6,000 coins that they mined, and I think that entity is owned by the Royal Group, who is in turn controlled by, I believe, the brother of the president of the UAE. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, so you know, and then another fund, I believe it's Mubadala, have 400 or 500 million
500
worth
million, of the ETF. Yeah. And that's the big sovereign fund.
You're mentioning, Stefan, like the brother of the president. Is this like the headline of this cycle is presidents and royal families of the world buying and getting into Bitcoin? Is this like the headline of the 24, 25?
Yeah, to me, the headline is the royals are finally becoming as sovereign as us.
Yeah.
They're finally catching on, you know?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see all this adoption. I mean, obviously the treasury companies, you can't ignore that. And like, I think the lending, right? There's so much interest in Bitcoin lending, collateralized, and that's lender side and the borrower side, right? So it's like on the borrower side, as Bitcoin maxis, you might want to, put some Bitcoin up and get some fiat, and then on the lender side, you've got like the fiat side of it, who are like, hey, I'm getting wrecked in fiat bonds or whatever. Why don't I put some money and earn better yields, maybe 10, 12% or whatever, on these Bitcoin collateralized lending? And then, obviously the treasury company, you can't ignore the treasury companies. I mean, it's like every day.
We were just talking with Mark. I think this concept repeats itself again with the borrowers and lenders. Is like Bitcoin the next, let's say, wave of or boom of money and business and so on from Bitcoin to the fiat world? Like, because at the end, Nolan, if you think what we were talking with Mark and now with Stefan is like Bitcoin is bringing business opportunities to the fiat world. Like we were talking about preferred yield, borrowing, like providing liquidity for better rates. Like I honestly am seeing how Bitcoin, the Bitcoin world, the Bitcoin industry is actually starting to become a real business for people who do not necessarily care about Bitcoin. They're just like, I'll serve you, Bitcoiner. I want to do business with you. What's your take, Stefan?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this, to me, speaks to this idea, and even with the treasury companies, of like index inclusion or like trying to create a stock ticker that the fiat people can just buy the ticker, right? Because for them, it's like, it's a hurdle. And so even, so I think it's part of this is like, Bitcoiners have, and to be fair, the infrastructure, the ecosystem has kind of reached a point of maturity where this happens, right? Like I'm also a fan of like power law and stuff like that, so I think that kind of shows kind of the adoption. But to your point, it's more that Bitcoiners are finding ways to try to put Bitcoin inside of what are typically non-Bitcoin products, right? So even if you look at what Roy and Breeze guys are doing with Lightning, they're trying to get Breeze SDK into. They're trying to make, instead of making just another Bitcoin wallet app, they're trying to put Bitcoin into existing apps that are like fiat apps. And all of these things are kind of coming together. It's because Bitcoiners are trying to find ways to help make it accessible for people, and then hopefully they sort of come in one of those ways, and then they come down the rabbit hole, and of course learn, hey, not your keys, not your coins, and all these things we talk about.
The frame I've always used for that, and I think it's remaining consistent. I would love to hear your reaction on it because it's been useful for me, which is, it's a peer environment, a peer network. We're peers in the network, and you can usually tell by human capital migrations into Bitcoin what's happening in the normie world, because you see that being destabilized and their human capital comes out. So of course the cryptographers were the first, the cypherpunks were the first human capital to peel out of their business, which was nihilistic and why doesn't anyone care about security and privacy, and suddenly they could run the businesses. They didn't have to be the chief of security who no one gave a shit about or listened to. They could start, actually realizing they could run them. And then we saw, the Ron Paul thing brought those political people in. It brought them, and that was a wave. You saw them all come out of the Ron Paul